Imagine this, you trip, lose your balance, and suddenly, gravity becomes your worst enemy. You're falling. The ground is racing up to meet you. Question is, how far can you actually fall before science says, yeah, you're not walking that one off? Turns out, there is an answer, and it's weirder, and way more hopeful than you might think. I've gone down a deep rabbit hole of physics papers, survival stories, and yes, a few very unlucky skydivers, to find out the exact point where a fall becomes physically unsurvivable. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll not only know the real scientific limit of human survival, but also why some people have somehow fallen from thousands of feet and lived to tell the story. The mystery of terminal velocity. Okay, first things first, why don't we just keep accelerating forever when we fall? Well, thank the universe for air resistance. See, when you fall, gravity pulls you down, but the air pushes back up. Eventually, those two forces balance, and you stop speeding up. That's called terminal velocity, basically the speed limit for falling humans. For an average adult in the classic "oh no, I'm falling" pose, that's around 120 miles per hour, or about 193 kilometers per hour. But if you go head first, like a superhero dive, you can crank that up to 200 miles per hour. And if you go belly flop mode, well, congratulations, you've just chosen the least aerodynamic way to die. So, physics says, once you hit terminal velocity, your fall speed won't increase, but that doesn't mean you'll survive. Let's see what happens next. When the ground wins, the science of impact. Here's where things get ugly. At 120 miles per hour, the force of impact when you hit the ground is like being hit by a car, multiplied by 10. But survival isn't just about speed. It's about what you hit. Landing on concrete? Your internal organs are basically like, okay, we're out. Landing on snow, trees, or swampy ground, that's like nature's airbag. The goal is to extend the time it takes for you to stop moving. The slower that deceleration, the less damage your body takes. This is why skydivers aim for water or soft terrain in emergencies. It's not that it's safe, it's just less instantly lethal. So how high can you fall onto different surfaces and maybe, just maybe, make it out alive? Let's rank them. The fall survival rankings. So let's get real. What actually happens to your body at different fall heights? Because the line between ouch and see you in the afterlife comes faster than you'd think. Up to 10 feet, 3 meters, the embarrassing, not fatal zone. You miss a step on the stairs, trip off a ledge, gravity gives you a gentle slap on the wrist. Your bones might complain, your pride definitely will, but statistically, you're walking it off. Falls like this account for millions of ER visits every year, and about 90% of them end with, "You're fine, just ice it." Still, if you land wrong, say, "Heal first" or "on your wrist," physics turns that small fall into a bone-snapping energy spike. So yeah, you might survive, but you'll be explaining that cast to everyone at school for weeks. 30 to 50 feet, 9 to 15 meters, the movie stuntman zone. This is where things stop being funny. At 30 feet, you're hitting the ground at roughly 30 miles per hour. That's like getting T-boned by a small car. Your legs? They absorb the shock first, which means they shatter like cheap IKEA furniture. Firefighters, window washers, construction workers, this is their nightmare height. It's not instantly fatal, but the internal injuries, spine compression, and brain trauma start to add up. Survive? Maybe. Walk again? That's a harder question. And those stuntmen who do jumps from this height, they land on massive air cushions engineered to slow impact over several seconds. You, on the other hand, have the Earth, which is famously bad at cushioning things. 100 feet, 30 meters, the Hollywood explosion height. Every action movie has that one hero who jumps off a building, rolls, and keeps running. Reality check? Physics does not care about your plot armor. At 100 feet, you're traveling around 55 miles per hour when you hit. That's like sprinting headfirst into a concrete wall, except you are the wall. Even if you somehow avoid instant death, the internal bleeding alone usually makes survival impossible. Doctors call this level of impact non-survivable blunt trauma. You wouldn't die from one thing, you'd die from everything at once. Still, freak miracles do happen, and the few who make it usually land on something that breaks their fall gradually, like a tree canopy or a sloped roof. So, if you ever find yourself falling from this height, aim for anything that moves or bends. 500 feet, 150 meters, the only physics can save you zone. At this point, your body has reached terminal velocity, that 120 miles per hour speed limit we talked about earlier. You could jump from a plane at this height or the top of a skyscraper, and you'd hit the ground just as hard either way. Your organs keep moving even after you stop. That's not poetic, it's literal. Your brain hits your skull. Your heart hits your ribs. Your lungs burst like overfilled balloons. If anyone survives this, it's never because the laws of physics broke, it's because the environment helped them cheat. Landing in thick snow, trees, a muddy slope, or wreckage that absorbed the energy can extend your stopping distance from milliseconds to a few seconds, and that can mean the difference between death and hospital bills that make you wish you'd died. So when I say if you survive this, your name is Vesna Vulovic, I mean it, because she's one of the only people who ever did, and her story defies everything physics says should be possible. And that brings us to her, the impossible survivors. In 1972, Vesna Vulovic, a flight attendant, fell 33,000 feet, that's 10 kilometers, after her plane exploded. And she survived. No parachute, no jetpack, nothing. She landed on a snowy, forested mountain slope, inside part of the plane's fuselage, which absorbed most of the impact. She broke a lot of bones, but lived to tell the story. And she's not alone. People have survived 10,000, 15,000, even 20,000 foot falls, usually by hitting trees, snow, or slanted surfaces that slow them down gradually. Moral of the story, you don't need wings, you need physics, luck, and preferably, a forest. The real scientific limit. So, what's the actual answer? According to physics, if you fall at terminal velocity and hit a non-solid surface like deep snow, thick vegetation, or sloped ground, you can technically survive from any height because the impact depends more on deceleration than distance. But if we're talking about flat, solid ground, realistically, 50 to 60 feet, 15 to 18 meters is around the highest fall a human can survive, and that's if you're extremely lucky, flexible, and land in a way that distributes the impact. In short, jump off your couch? Totally fine. Jump off a house? Terrible idea. Jump out of a plane? Only if you packed your parachute. Now that you know how high you can fall without dying, let's bring things back down to earth. Because while gravity can wreck your body, your first real fight, that wrecks your brain. In this next video, you'll see what actually happens inside your body when punches fly, the adrenaline, the tunnel vision, and the split-second science of panic and power. Trust me, you won't watch fights the same way again. So click the video right here on screen, and if you love learning the wild side of science like this, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.